feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Let your feet don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Oh, coffee, steam, and a smile breaks free. Simple joys are enough for me. Stones roll out, but I don't mind. Sun's still waiting on the other side. Turn it up, feel the sound. Good vibrations all around. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Wake up, sunlight tapping on the door. Feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey now, blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day.
Hi there, everybody. It's Congressman Eric Sorensen with you, just walking off the floor of the House. I wanted to come to you.
No sound. No sound. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for throwing that in the comment section. I didn't get too far. Good morning. I appreciate you being here. Smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. This is Conservative Cat on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. Breaking just in. It looks like just the DHS is going to shut down by tomorrow night or tonight. So the U.S. Senate has failed to advance this DHS funding bill, the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so likely it's going to shut down. U.S. Senator John Fetterman, he was the only Democrat to vote in favor of this bill. Now, it did pass the House. There's a larger majority in the U.S. House. So it got out of the House, went to the Senate. Senate shut it down. They're doing this whole filibuster thing and not voting it in. And these people are idiots because they say like, oh, we are shutting it down because of ICE. Okay. But ICE is already fully funded. Okay. For the year. What they are shutting down is Coast Guard, TSA, cybersecurity agencies, the CIA, and the NSA. Okay, so yesterday, if you missed the show, we talked a lot about the CIA and the NSA and their part in the Epstein files. Okay, now I'll get to that here in just a second, but up to this point, Democrats, they have been saying that the reason why they're not funding DHS and they're not going to, push this bill through. And this is U.S. Representative Eric Sorensen. He's a Democrat. This was his response in the House when he had it in the House as to why he didn't vote for it. This has been the narrative up to this point that they don't want to fund DHS because they don't want to fund ICE. Take a listen.
With funding for the federal government. As you know, Republicans failed to negotiate solutions this weekend, failed to include any meaningful reforms or guardrails on ICE. Because of that, we went into a partial government shutdown. Now, on the floor just now, Republicans put forth 5 different appropriations: defense, financial services, ed and labor, Department of State, and transportation and HUD. But not one of them included any accountability for an ICE agency that's operating without clear limits or oversight. It's another failure by Republicans because they're afraid of Donald J. Trump. They're failing to listen to their constituents and the majority of Americans who now disapprove of what's going on. The problem that I have in my heart is that this bill does nothing to rein in the abuses this administration is doing with ICE and CBP. First things first, I'm grateful for law enforcement who protect and serve people and for putting yourself out in harm's way. For my safety, my absolute thanks. But I cannot in good conscience vote for a package that does nothing to address the root of the problem as ICE shoots and kills Americans, denying them and others due process that is required to them by the Constitution.
Okay, so this is an Illinois congressman. I'm done with that BS. Okay, number one, they don't have due process rights. People who are convicted of felonies don't even have Second Amendment rights in this country. Illegal immigrants don't have due process rights, and yet they're afforded due process through a deportation order that's signed off by a judge. Like, how much due process do you actually want these people to have? Okay, deportation order signed off by a judge. You collect them. Like, ICE is supposed to do their job. You can't have so much due process where justice is never served. Okay, so people think that this is all about ICE, right? And the Democrats are doing this. ICE is fully funded for a year. What they're really doing is shutting down the DHS, which includes the Coast Guard, TSA, cybersecurity agencies. What are those? That's the CIA. That's the NSA. And if you caught the show yesterday, we talked a long time about those two agencies because Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers back in 2010, his attorneys, we know Jeffrey Epstein, right, working on behalf of the Israeli government, perhaps. We don't know that for sure because our CIA probably knows something, or our NSA, our intelligence communities probably know more. The attorneys, they wanted that documents. They wanted documents that have been sealed by our intelligence communities, their court documents. And we don't officially know what they are. Okay, because the CIA and the NSA have told us, well, we might have the documents, we might not. We can neither confirm nor deny. And the reason why we can't confirm or deny is because of national security. Okay, so they're pooping their pants right now, Democrats. Probably a lot of these Democrats. So the DOJ, like I told you, they're not the guys that we need to be looking at. It's the CIA, the NSA. They've got what we want: the foreign interference, the prime ministers, the big names, these court documents that have been sealed up, that Jeffrey Epstein's attorneys. Now, that's a huge deal. Jeffrey Epstein's attorneys couldn't even get those. Okay. And that's a huge deal, being that the attorneys were attempting to get these to aid in his defense. They couldn't even get them. That's a huge deal. And they're pooping their pants right now because the DOJ has like this login where members of Congress can log in using their federal government login, and they can look at the complete unredacted Epstein files, completely unredacted. That is how Thomas Massie yesterday, I played the clip for you. He was able to reveal that Les Wexner was named as a co-conspirator. The DOJ can't go investigate. They can't go indict these people. They were limited by the Transparency Act. They had to redact names of people out of national security. So I'm assuming that people like Les Wexner, some of these top elites that were named as co-conspirators, are listed in these court documents that are sealed by the NSA and the CIA. And that is what prompted the DOJ to redact all those names. Okay. Are you following me? The DOJ is completely handcuffed by our intelligence agencies. And I'm not here to debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, because I'm not privy to the information in them. I'd imagine, and people have talked about this total system collapse if those names are completely released. But what the DOJ has done was unredacted for Congress members. And then you can kind of like Control F and search your name. So at this point, Democrats are pooping themselves. And they're like, oh, man, we are kind of nervous about the next moves from Donald J. Trump and from this administration, because they've kind of like, Donald Trump knows all the skeletons in the closet. He knows Jeffrey Epstein was a weirdo. He kicked him off Mar-a-Lago for trying to recruit his girls to go down to Jeffrey Epstein's island and work for him. Trump is fully aware of what was going on with the Hollywood elite. He's the whistleblower. He told the FBI, and this has been revealed in the files, that he's glad that they're going after Jeffrey Epstein, but they should also take a look at Ghislaine Maxwell as well. So like, this is the guy who was kind of the rat, the mole. That is what I've gathered from the 3 million page dump. Donald Trump, there's no evidence that he was at Epstein's islands. There's no evidence that he was partaking in any of this. If I had to guess, and this is a stretch, he was probably invited to some of these above bar parties where there's drinking, hot girls, of age hot girls. And Jeffrey Epstein's whole goal was to try to get people, dirt on people for the Israeli government, and dirt on our congressmen. And that dirt, he'd take that back and he'd say, okay, well, now you got to fund the Israeli government, right? So they're all crapping themselves because they don't know what Donald Trump is going to do next. They did the DOJ thing, and, the Epstein file dump with the redactions. They know that the DOJ can't do anything. All of these members of Congress. So like I said, yesterday, the whole shakedown of Pam Bondi was political theater, complete smokescreen. Because they all know that the DOJ can't do anything, because really it's all in the hands of the NSA and CIA at this point. And there's a huge public interest in these Epstein files. Okay, huge. And they're searching their names right now as you and I talk here today. This morning, they're searching their names in this little database where they can go and find all the unredacted names, members of Congress. They are freaking out that the DHS is going to be directed by President Donald Trump, where Tulsi Gabbard is going to go and tell the CIA and the NSA to unseal what documents they have. Okay, because there is mounting pressure right now about these Epstein files. So I don't think that this was about ICE at all. Of course it's not. ICE is fully funded for a year. So why are they shutting down the DHS? It's not because they don't want the Coast Guard or TSA. I mean, come on, folks. This is about the CIA, NSA, and they're pooping bricks right now, thinking that the DHS that Donald Trump might just be crazy, one crazy MFer, right? And he might just do it. I've always said that I don't think Donald Trump is going to do that. I think that it would cause system collapse. I'm not sure, obviously, no one is, what the TSA or what the NSA and CIA have as far as names and who's on that client list. What we want, okay, the DOJ dumping everything, like, we didn't want any of that, really. I mean, like, now we know the dirty, sick details, but we want to know the who. And we want to know the foreign interference or the foreign involvement here with Jeffrey Epstein. We want to know if he was working for Israeli intelligence. We want to know that kind of stuff. Okay. And this 3 million page dump, it's kind of bogus. Like, it's already stuff we kind of knew. Okay, yes, they're satanic worshiping pedophiles who eat children. We were called conspiracy theorists like a few years ago for that. We should be issued a formal apology. But I should be issued one by the Washington Post because they said QAnon was crazy, or that I was a crazy conspiracy theorist who believed in pedophiles running the elite pedophiles are running the government. Yeah. Did a hit piece on me, called me QAnon. So Democrats are putting this country at risk because, I mean, we do have Coast Guard, TSA, cybersecurity agencies. Okay, the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. If you're defunding that, you're putting the country at risk. And the reason why they're doing it is because they are scared that Donald Trump might just hit the big red button on his desk and unseal and direct the intelligence communities to unseal what they've got. There is insane pressure. Now, I don't know, maybe that's wishful thinking that Donald Trump would. I mean, I don't want to see the system collapse either. I don't even know if it's necessarily a good thing. That's why I don't think that Donald Trump will do that. But they don't know that. And they're freaking out. So this is just disgusting. You've got a bunch of elite pedophiles who are shutting down the government because they're shutting down the DHS because they're freaking out that they're going to, because of all of this pressure from the Epstein files, they're going to direct the DOJ to start indicting people. They're going to unseal those court documents, and a whole lot of hell is going to be unleashed if that happens. Will Donald Trump do it? I don't know. And I don't think that the Democrats want to gamble with that, which is why they're shutting down the DHS. Things are getting crazy. And was this Donald Trump's plan all along? You know? And man, I would feel really guilty because I was kind of harsh on Pam Bondi yesterday. I've been harsh on the Trump administration for their rollout of the Epstein thing because they're not being honest with the American people. The DOJ has no power at this point. They have been completely handcuffed by the DHS, CIA, and NSA. They can't do anything. Cases have been closed because of national security reasons. And I know that, you know that. And they're like straight up lying to our faces or pretending. And I thought that Pam Bondi at this point has been pretending to be a top cop female. And she's given out binders to people about the Epstein files. And I was like, oh, well, they're trying to act transparent, but they're not actually being transparent, because if they were, they'd tell us that the DOJ can't do anything until the CIA and NSA give them the okay, go ahead. And that's what's been pissing me off about the Trump administration. Like, why is this smoke screen going on? Just tell us the truth. that this is sealed and we can't get access to the people that, or access to the names of the people that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked the humans to, trafficked the children to. Just be honest about why we can't. It's a national security issue. But they haven't been honest. But maybe, and like I said, this was sealed in 2010 by, so not Trump's, Tulsi Gabbard. She didn't seal it up. Okay, this was sealed, if not in 2010, years even prior to that, under different intelligence communities. But like I said, the intelligence communities won't even confirm nor deny that they have these said documents. So yeah, maybe it's like 4D chess, and like all of it's been building up to this moment to where we are now calling for unredacted Epstein files. And the only way the DOJ can do that is if they get the green light from the DHS, the CIA, the intelligence communities. And the only way that they can do that, completely unredacted, is to get them to unseal those court documents and say, hey, you're good to go, DOJ. So, like, did Donald Trump work up all of this hype in order to get to this point? And now we're exposing the Democrats for who they are because they want to defund the DHS and get it to shut down because they don't want, we're at this tipping point. I don't know. Fascinating stuff. Am I right? Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. So much to get to today. I don't know what Donald Trump will do next. This guy, I'm telling you, plays 4D chess. I can never keep up with him. And maybe I should stop trying. But I'm kind of upset with him because he pulled out of Minnesota. Again, maybe it's a 4D chess thing. Who knows? But Tom Homan appears to have surrendered. Donald Trump appears to have surrendered. They pulled out of Minnesota. They say they didn't pull out. They did. Okay, let's stop screaming at the sky and saying we're not pulling out. We're just pulling back a little bit. Okay. And this is amidst this $6 million riot bombshell. So these riots have been well funded by George Soros and at least 14 other nonprofit organizations. You knew that. I knew that. But now Josh Hawley knows it and the world knows it because it was exposed in a Senate hearing. So let's talk about that. Also, Trump's doing awesome things as far as the EPA, deregulating. And this deregulation push has infuriated all the right people. So you know that this is the right thing to do. So we're going to talk about Trump's EPA deregulation. And if we have time, we'll even talk about Trump completely torching this Obama era start-stop mandate. So I don't know if you have, I have a 2023. I got a Ford Bronco after I crashed my truck. And there's a start-stop feature on cars. And that was Obama era mandate. And this infamous engine killing feature is finally axed. He torched it. Now the car companies don't have to do that, where the car automatically stops. Newer cars have it in there, where the car automatically stops. You have to like press a button for it not to stop at stoplights. It's a fuel saver. It's gay. It's stupid. And quite frankly, it's overdue. But today's show, I want to talk about whether we're going to allow well-funded militias, political machines to terrorize federal agents, and are we going to allow them to be rewarded for it? Because Josh Hawley here, he's highlighted that at least 14 leftist organizations, non-government organizations, including organizations tied to George Soros, they funneled about $60 million into anti-ICE riot activity in Minnesota. $60 million. Okay, that is not a spontaneous protest. That is an operation. This is a well-funded militia. You've got nonprofit organizations funneling money into these riots. They're setting up signal chats. They're designating journalists on the ground. They're deploying militants like Alex Preddy and Renee Good. They're deploying them on the ground. They're getting intel about where the ICE operations were taking place in Minnesota. They're throwing that intel into a group chat, and they've got dispatch, they've got ambulance kind of response, or medical response. They've got journalists. They've got a well-funded operation, and this is sophisticated, and it's backed by nonprofit money, and those nonprofits are backed by foreign billionaires. Take a listen. Here's Josh Hawley. Here we go.
Specializes in following nonprofit funding and organizational networks. So based on your research, what organizations have been active on the ground in Minnesota? What can you tell us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have tracked over $60 million, according to the latest 990 disclosures, to approximately 14 groups, some of them national, others on the ground. Groups like the ACLU provide the legal defense, as well as facilitate the trainings for some of the tactics that Senator Corrin just described. A group named Democracy Forward. Take Action Minnesota has gotten over $10 million from these large NGO networks, including the Neville Roy Singham Network, Indivisible, National Lawyers Guild, CTUL, the Council on American Islamic Relations Minnesota, CARE, Minnesota 350, Voices for Racial Justice, on and on. Like I said, over $60 million just according to the latest 990 disclosures.
$60 million, at least 14 different groups. That sounds like a pretty broad ecosystem here. Where's this money coming from? I mean, how is it flowing to these groups? Do you have any sense?
So we've built a database that contains hundreds of thousands of rows from grants from networks like the Soros Network, the Arabella Funding Network, as mentioned, the Neville Roy Singham Funding Network, many others, Tides, the Ford Foundation Network, the Rockefeller Funding Network, these massive NGOs that have billions of dollars to spend on all kinds of coordinated protest, or in this case, riot activity.
So Tides Foundation, just a fun fact for my Illinoisans out there, connected to the Pritzker family. So we've exposed the crime, right? This is treasonous. This is insurrection. You've got foreign billionaires funding riots on the ground, funding the stalking, the biting of fingers of ICE agents on the ground. Yes, this happened where an ICE agent got his finger bit off. You've got all this. We're exposing this. We've exposed it right there. I mean, exposed. Every day we're exposing this type of stuff. I want to get to the part where the criminals are actually arrested and justice is actually served. Let's skip to that part, okay? I'm tired of people saying, oh, these riots are protests. They're protests and they're organic and it's just community outrage. 14 coordinated groups pushed money into one region and they got equipment. They set up group chats. They have logistics. They have legal defense funds. They have the media, okay, where they've got a journalist on call showing up to their resistance of the operation. So you've got politicians named as and elected officials named as administrators in these signal chats. Okay, and where are they getting their information from about where these ICE operations are? We lost, okay, because it's well funded. We're losing in Minnesota. That's why we pulled out, and I'll get to that here in just a second. This is not a grassroots thing, okay? This is not community outrage over ICE being there. This is sophisticated, coordinated, and it's an attack on America by foreign billionaires, people who hate us. Okay, this is infrastructure. This is not random unrest. Okay, this was structured and it was designed to intimidate ICE agents. It was designed to intimidate local officials and the federal government and to really rebel against the federal government. And to be quite frank with you, it worked, because guess what? We are intimidated and we pulled out. Now, before I get to Tom Homan surrendering, and really Donald Trump surrendering there in Minnesota, I want to talk about Keith Ellison. He's the Attorney General in Minnesota. And like I said, I want to skip to the part where we actually arrest these people. I don't think we're ever going to get there because Keith Ellison is not going to investigate these 14 groups. He's not going to charge them with treason, insurrection for what this really was. It was treasonous insurrection and rebellion, open rebellion of the United States of America. Okay, Minnesota is a state of the United States of America. No, he's not going to do that. Why? Because Keith Ellison's got some skeletons in his closet. Howley also raised explosive concerns about the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison. The allegation here is that Ellison, he's declined to prosecute Somali fraudsters. Okay, so the whole reason why ICE is there is to find out who these Somali fraudsters are. Alex Preddy, actually, the address in which Alex Preddy died, he was right outside this building. It was 1,100 square foot. There was, I think, 14 businesses, healthcare related businesses listed there. 1,100 square foot, folks. That's a 2-bedroom house. Okay. And they had 11 businesses there. I think it was like an absurd number, 81 practitioners, nurses. They're called, and they're numbers that are assigned to practitioners, doctors, and practices, medical offices. There's like 81 registered there. Like clearly this had to have been a fraudulent location, and ICE was there, or Border Patrol was there. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but perhaps their operation had something to do with that address and, you know, deporting Somalis who have been committing fraud. They've been getting grants for these healthcare facilities, grants for these daycare facilities, grants for nonprofits that are supposed to feed hungry children, but they turn around, they pocket the grant money, and then they live these lavish lifestyles, or they send it back to Al-Shabaab, which is a terrorist organization in Somalia. Okay, so they're frauding the taxpayers. This case, there were he declined to prosecute Somali fraudsters, fraudsters who were accused of stealing $250 million through the Feeding Our Future nonprofit organization. They got $250 million in taxpayer funding to feed needy children. They did not use that money to feed the needy children. Rather, they took the money and ran. Okay, so that's what's going on here with the Somali fraudsters. And Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, guess what? Apparently, he received campaign contributions from those individuals connected to that fraud. He received campaign contributions from those individuals just 10 days later after they received, or after he denied prosecution. Okay, so take a listen. Here's Josh Hawley. Here we go.
The other thing is, whistleblowers came to you as early as 2019. Let's look. As early as 2019, whistleblower. Don't talk over me.
No,
as early as
talking
2019, it's my hearing, pal. As early as 2019,
don't call me
whistleblowers came to. Well, I should call you prisoner because you ought to be in jail.
All right, here with more, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. All right, he was warned. Whistleblowers tried to tell him. He didn't do a thing about it. Number one, how much money are we talking about? And in the course of that exchange, you said he should be indicted, put in jail, and resign. I don't think he wanted to hear you.
No, he didn't, Sean, which is why he was trying to shout over me. But you know what? The truth is a hard thing, especially when you're a crook like this guy. How much money? $250 million was stolen by this Somali outfit Feeding Our Futures. He made $10,000 in campaign contributions. His family got more money in campaign contributions. Sean, whistleblowers came to him. He didn't do a thing. He didn't do anything until The fraudsters came to him in his office, asked him to get the investigators off of their backs and promised him money, and then he swung into action and put his hand out. That's what we call bribery, Sean. He ought to be indicted. He ought to go to jail. He ought to be ashamed. And you want to know why we have a corruption problem in this country? It's people like Keith Ellison.
People like Keith Ellison. So, you know, that I've explained this racket before. If the Somali fraudsters don't use it on their lavish lifestyles or send it back to Al-Shabaab, the terrorist group in Somalia, what they'll do in order to keep getting the taxpayer money, in order to keep getting the grant money for their fake daycares, their fake healthcare centers, in order to keep getting that money, they will contribute money to Democrat campaigns. They will fill the coffer, their campaign coffers with that taxpayer money. That's called money laundering, folks. It's also called bribery because Josh Hawley has, you know, laid it out. I guess these fraudsters whom he denied prosecution came to his office, and then 10 days within prosecution being denied and like them not pursuing charges, within 10 days, this guy got $10,000. Hawley called it what he believes it is, bribery. Look, law enforcement decisions cannot be influenced by political money. Okay. This is textbook corruption. And I guess Keith Ellison ignored whistleblowers in 2019 that said, hey, you know, there's fraud going on here. And he met with the Somali fraudsters. Here's the timeline. He ignored them in 2019, these whistleblowers who said, hey, these two fraudsters, yeah, they're taking taxpayer money and they're not spending it on on feeding children or hungry children through the Feeding Our Future. He meets with these Somali fraudsters, not in 2019 when he gets the tips from the whistleblowers. No. He meets with them in 2021 to supposedly help them. And then after he meets with them 10 days later, he's got campaign cash from them. What? If a conservative group, by the way, let me jump back to the $60 million because that's kind of where this all started. I said that Keith Ellison isn't going to do jack in Minnesota when it comes to George Soros funding the 14 organizations that were essentially created militias, well-funded militias on the ground. These nonprofits were funding militias, sophisticated militias to go after the federal government. He's not going to prosecute anybody, these nonprofit organizations that were doing that, the militants like Alex Preddy, Renee Good, who are insurrectionist terrorists. He's not going to do any of that. Why? Because this guy's got crazy skeletons in his closet. Imagine, if you will, a nonprofit conservative group gets funded $60 million, okay, by a Republican billionaire, okay? And then those conservative groups fund protests, riots, and target federal officers. If that was the case, the media would not be calling it activism or grassroots outrage or community outrage. No, they'd call it what it is. It's insurrection. It's rebellion. It's open rebellion of the United States. We all know the answer. You know, if conservative groups did this, conservative nonprofits funded protests that targeted federal officers, those conservative groups would not see the light of day. They'd be prosecuted. They'd actually arrest people. Somebody actually threw it in the chat, deeply disappointed in this administration. At least the Dems have the stones to arrest people. This administration is too weak to do anything except run out the clock. Yeah. So let's get to Tom Homan now. That brings me to Tom Homan. Tom Homan announced pretty much a full withdrawal of ICE's surge posture. Okay. So this is different from removing ICE completely. This is removing ICE's surge posture in Minneapolis. The left is celebrating. They're saying victory, resistance works, Trump back down. Here's what Homan said. He said, ICE is not ending enforcement. They are ending the surge posture. Hundreds of agents remain focused on fraud investigations. Okay, so what this means is ICE is not going to be out and about. They're going to be in offices, okay? DHS retains full authority to scale back up. Yeah, but DHS is not funded. I'd imagine ICE is still going to be funded because they're fully funded for the rest of the year. Over 800 flights land daily in St. Paul. So they're getting planes in there and deporting people still. It's just that they are withdrawing their surge posture. Take a listen. Here we go.
Drawing down resources, we still want to have hundreds of special agents here, drawing down on the fraud here from the Somali community and others. Those fraud investigations are going to continue until they're done. We're going to hold people responsible. We're also got investigators here doing the church investigations, to include Don Lemon. We're not walking away from anything. We've achieved what we came here for. This is like any other surge operation. L.A., it ended. Los Angeles, it ended. Charlotte, it ended. New Orleans, it ended. This is ending the surge, but we're not going away. And let me say this. Over 800 flights a day land in St. Paul, Minnesota. If we need to come back, we'll come back.
Oh, okay. So to me, sorry, Tom, love you, man, but this is nothing short of a complete and total surrender to the radical left agitators that were there. You left at the height of it, okay? When Alex Preddy lost his life or decided to lose his life, like I told you, these are well-trained militants on the ground. They're fully aware that they're going to die in this war. Renee Good, fully aware that she would die in this war. Look at her face in the video footage while running over the ICE agent who had internal bleeding. Like, she knew that this was what she wanted to do. She knew that this was her goal, her passion, okay? Just as passionately as somebody who joins our military. So the problem here, Tom, is that perception matters. Look, at the height of this Minneapolis thing, you guys pulled out. You know, politics, in politics, optics are reality. Okay. And the message that many Americans have received from this surge withdrawal is that riots work, pressure works, intimidation works. And if you scream loud enough, if you block the streets long enough, and if you harass ICE agents long enough, Washington will pull back. That's what message this sends, even if that's not operationally true. Okay, he said, we're just ending the surge because we've ended the surges all throughout the country. It's just not necessary anymore. Okay, let's just say that's true, and you deported, 5 million or what is it, 20 million illegals who came over. Joe Biden, I don't know how many Somalians are there, but I know you guys you don't have the numbers that I'd like to see as far as deportations go. But let's play along for a second and say the surge isn't needed anymore operationally. The perception is what matters. Okay, that perception that if you stand in the streets long enough, if you bite the fingers off of ICE agents, and eventually Washington will pull back, that perception is going to embolden future chaos. And we've got to ask the hard question here. These are not grassroots protests. This is a well-funded, sophisticated organizations, 14 we just uncovered, that had $60 million funneled into it, 14 organizations from foreign billionaires. And these organizations were tasked with stalking federal agents, and federal operations were obstructed. What do we call that? Okay, if it was a right-wing organization, we would call it and label it a militia, an extremist networks, domestic terror, somebody who's in open rebellion of the United States and working on behalf of foreign enemies. Okay, and I don't know about you, but you've got a lot of work to do there. The surge should not be withdrawn. If anything, it should be ramped up, right? So independent reporting noted that the surge was meant to force cooperation with local authorities. That's what the surge was meant to do. I think that the surge should be meant to take down the domestic terrorists who have partnered with these Somalians in Minneapolis and have waged war against the United States. I think that the surge should combat all of that, but whatever. And what cooperation from local authorities? Tim Walz is out there encouraging these people to go do what they're doing, encouraging these agitators. The surge was meant to accelerate criminal fraud investigations, secure compliance, and once the cooperation began, the surge staffing was no longer required because they've gotten some sort of local cooperation. I don't know what the hell you're talking about unless Tim Walz offers himself up in handcuffs. There, what cooperation is like? What do you mean? He's not cooperating. He's encouraging people to go out there and fight these ICE agents. If the surge truly achieved compliance, and Tim Walz was groveling and saying, yes, arrest all of the Somalis, arrest these domestic terrorists. That's the level of compliance I would want to see if we're going to pull out, if we're going to pull that surge out. That would be strength. Okay. If we actually got Tim to surrender, if we got Minnesota officials to surrender, we haven't gotten them to surrender. They're sitting in group chats feeding sensitive information about federal operations in their Signal group chats to these militants who are paid for by George Soros and other left-wing billionaires. Tides Foundation, Governor J.B. Pritzker. Like, what? You didn't achieve compliance with these people. They're in the group chats with the militants. The voters, we're heading into the midterms, and we're going to have to decide, what narrative we're going to believe. Are we going to believe this narrative that, we pulled out because we achieved compliance with the local officials there on the ground? With Tim Walz, we achieved it. Yeah, I don't think so. This is a complete and total surrender to radical leftists and Republicans. You got to take note. I wouldn't say vote for the other side, but be pissed, at this narrative that we won somehow in Minneapolis. We didn't win. We pulled out. Okay. And Democrats are going to use this. And I don't know why we did it. Was it for the midterms to appease the Democrats? I mean, the Democrats will never be satisfied. They're going to spin this. They're going to say Trump blinked. They're going to say that this is an admission that ICE is bad. This is an admission of guilt. And they will use it as proof that the anti-ICE movement forced change. And if that narrative sticks, we're in big trouble because we're going to have copycat type tactics all around the nation. And, at the end of the day, what this is about is letting well-funded political networks and militias target federal law enforcement. They created chaos. They applied pressure. And at the end of the day, they declared victory because we walked away. That's what this is about. We lost the war. All right. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. We do have something nice to say about Donald Trump's administration today. And I don't know. I opened the show talking about DHS. They are not funding DHS, the Senate Democrats, John Fetterman being the sole Democrat to vote in favor of funding the DHS. And the narrative up to this point has been ICE bad. That's why we're not funding DHS. But what's funny is ICE has already been funded for the entire year. So they're really just going after TSA, Coast Guard, and our intelligence communities. So NSA, CIA. That's interesting considering this very, very public, been dominating the internet for, I don't know, months, a year. I mean, since July of 2025, really, Epstein has been trending. since July of 2025. But there's public pressure now for the DOJ to completely unredact these files. And the only way they can do that, the Transparency Act limits the DOJ in unredacted and releasing these files because of national security reasons. The CIA, NSA, they've got something we don't have, probably the client list, but they won't even confirm nor deny that they have it. And they cite national security laws. Jeffrey Epstein's attorneys had tried to get these court documents in 2010. I think that the Democrats are pooping bricks because, oh man, is Donald Trump going to press that big red button and get Tulsi Gabbard to unseal these court documents? And the DHS is the daddy to these two kids, CIA and NSA. If you defund the head, you're going to defund the rest. And I think that the Democrats are doing this whole thing, not because of ICE, but because they really don't want the DHS to, at the direction of President Donald Trump, release what's been sealed. And I think that's their play here. Anyway, let's talk about Trump. A good thing, one good thing that he's done. And then I got to go because I've got an appointment today. So only an hour. Sorry, folks. But blockbuster announcement. He is killing the Environmental Protection Agency Obama era endangerment finding. Okay, so he's doing away with that. He's killing it. And this has obviously sent liberals into a blind rage. They're screaming at the sky, crying into their milk glasses. So what this finding is, the endangerment finding, it was declared back in 2009, and it says that human health is, there's a threat to human health when it comes to greenhouse gases, that greenhouse gases pose a threat to human health. And the EPA had the right to regulate greenhouse gases, which gave the agency, the Environment Protection Agency, crazy power, and they kneecapped the economy. So the president has now unleashed the full economic power of the United States with this killing of the endangerment finding. Okay, and he's allowing consumers to choose what they buy. Okay, and he's allowing companies to run without all this crazy regulation. All the usual suspects crying into their milk this morning because he did this. Trump, he repealed the endangerment finding. And the former President Barack Obama had this to say. He said, the ruling that served as the basis of the endangerment finding, the ruling that served as the basis for limits on tailpipe emissions, power plant rules. Without it, we will be less safe, less healthy, and less able to fight climate change. Also, the fossil fuel industry can make more money. Look, Obama's just upset because the ruling is a major setback for the climate grifting machine. Climate zealots who profit from this, it's the climate consultancy class, okay? Left-wing environmental organizations, nonprofits who say that they're combating climate change. And then they get all kinds of grants from the government to combat climate change. Now, like overnight, they're melting down because their panties are all up in a wad because, like a Jenga block, Trump just pulled it out, removed this endangerment finding, and their whole climate scam comes crashing down. And their climate change boondoggle comes crashing down to the ground. These climate activists, these left-wing environmental organizations, that's what really Brock is all upset about. He could care less about our safety or our health, okay? And greenhouse gases are not a threat to human health. But anyway, speaking of climate grifters, Al Gore also had something to say. So Barack Obama had something to say. Al Gore had something to say. He said on X, he goes, the Trump administration is once again denying science and reality, this time by throwing out a established research connecting climate crisis to public health. Well, he goes, while the Trump administration can deny or can try to ignore the climate crisis, it's painfully clear that the climate crisis will not ignore us. Last summer, the U.S. experienced a dozen once-in-a-thousand-year floods in the span of just 3 days in Texas. One of those flooding events killed at least 135 people, including 37 children at a summer camp. The Trump administration's rollback of the endangerment finding is not only a direct assault on science, knowledge, and public health, it's an assault to people across the country who are already coping with the disastrous consequences of climate-driven extreme weather events. There have been extreme weather events forever, okay? You can't, and even if, look, what are you going to do? Get people to stop living their lives? The climate will change, okay? This world is actually going to end, and I take great peace in that God says, hey, the world's going to end, but guess what? My word is forever. Jesus is forever, and you will have eternity as long as you profess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, right? So I take great peace in that, knowing that full well that, yes, the climate changes. Okay, so, yeah, poor Al. Like, chill, dude, okay? I really think that you need to take a look at your own resume, your little documentary, forget what it's called. You got to look at your own resume. Trump is denying science and reality. I'm pretty sure that Al Gore's the guy that said that Florida would be underwater by now. Okay, so check your own resume, dude. It's a complete cry fest here. Gavin Newsom chimed in. He said that he's going to fight this lawlessness or this lawless action in court. California will fight it. He said Donald Trump's administration is falsely claiming that greenhouse gases are not a threat to public health, breaking the law to once again grovel to the oil industry. Gosh, these people. Look, here's an inconvenient truth. The endangerment finding put way too much power in the hands of an agency of bureaucrats, the EPA, and allowed the EPA to dictate the nation and the economy. And Al Gore, Obama, Newsom, they can go back to their multi-million-dollar mansions, get on their private jets, and emit their greenhouse gases, and complain about this move that Donald Trump did, this bold move. As long as they, want, they can complain about it. But at the end of the day, this was overdue. And this is going to correct something that should have been corrected a long time ago. This is going to correct our economy. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you so much. I'll talk to you later. We'll be back again Monday morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.